Hello?
Was when we look at this journey, it
My thoughts on the new Five Nights at Freddy's movie?
actually began early on in
Yeah, I can do that. Okay, I know what most of you are here for. You've seen the review scores and just want to know, should I see this or not? Putting it bluntly, Five Nights at Freddy's 2 has little to offer viewers who aren't already invested in the franchise. So unless you have a friend who's dying to see it, or you already consider yourself a fan, then you can probably skip this one and wait for it to hit streaming sites. Now with that out of the way, for the rest of this review I'll be speaking from the perspective of a FNAF fan, and I'll be talking full spoilers for the movie, so if that's not something you're interested in, thanks for stopping by, you're safe to tune out now. You're still here, so I guess we can get into it. I think most would agree that the first FNAF movie was inarguably the Mike and Abby story, with a heavy focus on Mike addressing his trauma to come out on top as a better brother. In that same vein, I'd call Five Nights at Freddy's 2 the Vanessa and Abby story. Vanessa's role is clear from the start, as we open with a nightmare flashback sequence at the original Freddy's location, where Charlotte Emily is alone waiting for her favorite animatronic, the marionette, to come out on stage. Here, Charlie is depicted as a loner, and this leads her to witnessing Spring Bonnie whisking a kid off to the back of the pizzeria. After multiple failed attempts to warn the parents, she ignores the pleas of a young Vanessa Afton and takes actions into her own hands, saving the boy at the cost of her own life. It's here that she becomes a vengeful spirit latching onto the marionette and becomes the primary antagonistic force of this movie. Abby's story pretty much picks up where it left off. Life has begun to move on, but she's still missing her friends back at Freddy's. Mike, not knowing how to tell her the truth, has made up a story about her friends being broken to keep her away. And this all ties into a B-plot about Abby's robotics class participating in the science fair, where, skipping over a few steps, Abby gets put in Charlie's crosshairs as a means of escaping the pizzeria so she can get revenge on all the parents who wouldn't listen to her. And that's like the key threat going into the final act. That was a heavily trimmed down version of what's going on in the main story, but I think you can get the picture. Now, there's a lot of valid complaints that can be made about this aspect of the movie, especially to total FNAF newbies. For example, what is it that made Charlie so attached to the puppet in the first place? What, if anything, was Michael Afton's role in the story? And even something specific to the movie universe, like what is it about Abby that gives her such a strong connection to these supernatural elements? Any one of these are completely valid, but to that point, all I can really say is, well, yeah, that's FNAF. Maybe we've forgotten because we've all been huffing a little too much game theory, but creators like Dawko, John FNAF, 8-Bit Ryan, numerous Let's Players, and of course, the game theorists have spent the better part of a decade trying to piece together Scott Cawthon's world into a manageable timeline. That's typically not something that needs to happen for a franchise that had a cohesive story to begin with. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is FNAF writing in its purest form. It's convoluted, and it's broken into tiny lore fragments that need to be pieced together into a grander story, and that's why we love it. This is another point of criticism the film has been receiving, specifically in regards to certain performances feeling phoned in, but I'd rather focus on the ones that really landed for me, starting with the animatronics. Kellen Goff as Toy Freddy was perfect as far as I'm concerned. I've been hearing a lot more division over this casting online than I was expecting. I understand some fans wanted Freddy to sound closer to his Ultimate Custom Night counterpart, but to be completely honest, I've always pictured most of the Freddy animatronics as having a deeper voice in line with Goff's glam rock Freddy, so this couldn't have been better for me. Our number one guy, Matt Pat, as Toy Bonnie. I wasn't sure what we'd be getting when it was revealed that Matt was voicing Bonnie, and honestly, I'm still halfway surprised he didn't say that's just a theory at some point in this movie, but it was pretty good. In my head, I've always pictured Bonnie sounding kind of like Funtime Freddy, if that makes sense, but the softer, almost androgynous sound we end up getting would definitely feel less threatening to kids, so I'm cool with that. And of course, I had to save the best for last, Megan Fox's Toy Chica. I'm sure this is heavily influenced by how much screen time she got, but Megan as Chica just worked, point blank. She was perfectly in line with how I'd always imagined Toy Chica sounding, and in a movie like this you couldn't really ask for more than that. Moving on to the human characters, my picks for the standout players are probably pretty obvious to those that know me, and are pretty in line with the social media discourse from what I've seen. Starting with Vanessa Shelley, played by Elizabeth Lale. Towards the start, I referred to FNAF 2 as Vanessa's story, so understandably her performance was solid, and I'd say overall it was an improvement from the first film. Up next is a character I'm shocked even exists in this universe, Michael Afton, played by Freddie Carter. It's hard to say what would make an ideal Michael, since fans have been projecting a lot of different traits onto him over the years, but for the version we're getting in the movie, he was a proper fucking creep, really selling me on the whole William Jr. portrayal, and I was thoroughly put off whenever he was on screen in like the best way possible. Lastly, and this one surprised even me, but Henry Emily, played by Skeet Ulrich, was perfect. Look, I thought casting Skeet alongside Lillard was just cheeky metacasting, cause it's fun, like, it's the iconic Scream duo. But he made such a lasting impression in the short amount of time he was on screen. But what really sold me was when he was off screen. That voicemail he left Mike during the credits was, just chef's kiss. Like, that is Henry Emily. I couldn't help but instantly imagine him hitting the whole monologue from the end of Pizzeria Simulator, and it was just so peak. I don't think the criticisms regarding flat line delivery are invalid, but I guess for me as a fan with his own ideas of what's coming, it's not enough to bog down the whole movie, cause the three I imagine carrying the most weight going into the third film really killed it. Honestly, I don't want to spend too much time on this topic, simply because it can very easily turn into me glazing the Jim Henson Creature Shop for 30 minutes, and that's not what this video is supposed to be. But if you are looking for that, or you just want an up-close breakdown of all the cool details on set, I recently watched Daco's video where he visited the FNAF 2 movie set, and I couldn't recommend it enough. So after we finish up here, definitely consider checking out his video if you're a fan of behind-the-scenes type stuff. Now, since I've spent the majority of this review being positive, I think it's time for something I did take issue with. I think we spent way too much time away from the recognizable locations. I understand they likely wanted to avoid rehashing too much from the first film, but for how amazing the sets are, we spend way too much time outside of them. In town, at Mike's house, at Abby's school, in broad daylight. I know it's a key part of the movie, the animatronics are getting out, so we need to establish these types of locations for when they eventually start running wild. But it feels like we traded away some of the atmosphere we had in the first movie to get there. To wrap up this review, I'd like to discuss where I think we're going headed into Five Nights at Freddy's 3. Despite the obvious,
"We found one. A real one."
It seems clear to me we're going to be doing a lot more with the third film than a direct adaptation of FNAF 3 the game. The big cliffhanger at the end of the movie is Mike cutting Vanessa off and her being possessed by Charlie. Then, for the mid-credits scene, Springtrap gets recovered from the franchise location to be an attraction at Fazbear's Fright. And we still don't know what Michael is up to or if he even has an end goal beyond continuing his father's work. But he's out there somewhere unaccounted for. All of these things need to be addressed going forward, and taking into account the brief cameo from Circus Baby in Vanessa's dream, I can imagine FNAF 3 being some sort of amalgamation of story elements from Five Nights 3, 4, and Sister Location. It really just depends on if this movie deal with Scott gets extended past the third film, and if Michael Afton is headed towards a redemption arc with Pizzeria Simulator closing the book on the Afton era of Five Nights at Freddy's. I could get deeper into my theories about movie 3 and a hypothetical future beyond it, but that's best saved for another video. To reiterate what I was saying at the start of the video, if you're looking at this purely from a film fan's perspective, it's hard to recommend this to anyone outside the fandom. But I am a fan, and I had a really good time watching this movie with friends both inside and outside of the fandom. I'll most likely end up watching this several more times before it hits streaming, and I think you'll find that the audience scores, or at least the intended audience, reflects that. So viewing this through the Faz lens, I'm gonna have to give it an 8 out of 10 for personal enjoyment. I want to thank you guys for making it all the way to the end with me. This is my first time making this type of video, and I was pretty nervous to upload it. So if you enjoyed what you saw, consider leaving a like and subscribing. It lets me know what you guys want to see from me in the future. That's all from me though. I hope to see y'all again real soon.